Hey guys, Half Past Tour back again with another video. This one's going to be a commentary of one of my Rank 5's games that I played the other day with my team, Absolute Zero. I'm going to be playing Soraka against TF in the mid lane. This is the first game of Soraka I've had in Season 4. She's quite an enjoyable champion to play actually. I used to play her a little bit, so I'm not completely new to her. I will know what I'm doing, but I haven't had enough experience on her to be able to play her to maximum efficiency, unfortunately, as this is my first game on her this season. But she's very strong right now, especially in this team composition that we have created to make our Vayne and Shyvana exceptionally strong with the Lulu shields and ult, the triple summoner heal coming out, and the Soraka heals and the armor buff and the thresh shields, and just a massive amount of extra stats to go onto our carries, and a good AoE team fighting comp coming out from us here. The enemy team have quite a strong team fighting comp as well. Global pressure from the TF and Renekton with teleport, as we counter the teleport with our own teleport right now. It's very vital that you take TP in this meta because, as you'll see in a moment, the 4v0 lane swaps come out, and teleport is vital in these to maintain map pressure when you're farming frozen lanes. So you'll have seen the runes and masteries before this video, but I'll go quick recap of them. I run 0, no, do I run 0? I think it's 9-21-0, but I could be wrong. It could be 0-21-9. All I know for sure that 21 in defense is a priority on Soraka because you just want to survive and just get out as many star calls as possible. The 21 in offense doesn't make too much of a difference because you only have 2 damage spells, and you're more focused on the utility of the healing and surviving for as long as possible to get out your max rotations. And the rune page that I run is probably a defensive AP page with magic resist, health per level, or flat health, a bit of magic pen, and maybe some armor pen. Not too sure. You'll have seen them before the video though, so that's fine. The skill order that you max on Soraka is Q into W into E, maxing ult whenever you have a spare point, or level 6, 11 and 16. So this lane kind of favours Soraka because I can just push up to the tower and TF can't really do anything about it, especially once I hit level 3 and have all 3 of my spells. I miss a lot of CS in lane this game because I'm quite new to the mid lane Soraka damage on the Q, but I just want to push the lane into tower constantly to force TF to stay in lane, especially after level 6. Get a nice bit of free harass out with the silence. As soon as I hit level 3, this lane is really hard for TF because I get to sustain all the poke damage he does back to me in trades, whereas he can't do that. As you can see, I run up to him, silence him, get 2 auto attacks and 2 Qs off, which is a lot of damage. A little bit of insight onto what's going on down around the map. We sent 4 people bot after they late invaded us and forced us into the 2v1 or 4v0 lane swap, whatever you want to call it. And they're currently pushing down the top tower as well. Even though they initiated the lane swap, they're pushing the tower slower, which I'm not quite sure how this happened. But usually if you initiate the lane swap, you should be able to push down the towers quicker, even if the top tower has the bonus armor on it. They should still push it down faster because they know and don't have to rotate like we had to rotate for the tower. But so we're going to go for the 2 tower swap. Both teams going to continue to push on for 2 towers and then just recall and freeze. So the lane phase is quite simple. You just push out constantly. You want to keep harassing them every time they come up for CS, and just continuously star call the wave down, push it to tower. Just going to speed up the lane phase a bit because it is quite a boring lane phase. It's just both players, or it's just basically me pushing into the TF and the TF just CSing on the tower. Not too interesting. Little fight happens up in the top lane. Basically what happens there is the Lucian is forced to burn his heal and the Karma's forced to burn her flash, which actually plays a big part in what's going to come up at a fight later on. But you'll see that in a moment. So just going to speed up the lane phase because it's quite boring, and we want to see the team fights from our team comp because that's where the interesting, and the reason we built the team comp was for team fighting. So you'll get to see how strong the triple heal and stuff like that is. So I see that Zinzal's trying to gank me here, get a nice bit of early warning. TF burns his ghost, but I'm well off. I'm well away from the Zinzal now, so he's forced to back off and waste the summoner. Not sure why the TF's running Ghost Flash this game. He should be running an aggressive or defensive summoner. So as you can see, the enemy team starts on a dragon. I feel like this is because they don't think that we've quite rotated bottom lane yet, but we're all here and ready to defend this. So we get the Lulu to teleport in, so it's a 5 versus 5. I get a bit of focus, but the heals just come out and we just completely out-sustain them in this fight, taking a lot of damage and just dealing a lot of damage back and sustaining through the team fight. They pick up the first blood onto their Karma, but we pick up 2 kills in return. 3 kills as the Vayne gets a double kill for herself. Red buff's applied to the TF, forcing him to flash and use his final escape summoner. And the Thresh is going to chase down the Karma, Flayo back into the Vayne. Vayne's going to pick up double buffs and a triple kill for herself, which is absolutely enormous. A Vayne with 3 kills this early, just something you don't want to have to deal with as the enemy team. As we pick up 4 kills in that fight, for only 1 death I think, so we just end up taking the dragon for free here. Even with our jungler dead and on our way back to farming the jungle. So that is a really good early game advantage for us. And we're all going to recall and spend our gold. So as you can see in that team fight, having 3 summoner heals, a Soraka and a Lulu, just made it so the enemy team just could not kill us. Could not burn through our damage quick enough. Nice bit of harass onto the Karma there from our Vayne. And as you can, so basically they just got out sustained and the team fight just went super well for us. This is mainly because the Karma didn't have her flash available, the Lucian didn't have his heal available, and we had 3 heals up. So that's really good for us. I go pick up the blue buff for myself, which is really good on Soraka. Talking about the items that you want to build on Soraka, usually you want to go with Athene's first. This gives you the cooldown reduction magic resist against the magic damage mid laner like TF. It also gives you a good amount of mana regeneration, which is really good in sustained team fights because you're going to be getting a lot of spell rotations out with the cooldown reduction that you get from it as well. Just keeps you topped up on your mana as you can't give it to yourself anymore like you used to be able to with Soraka. They nerfed that a long time ago. Her imbue, her E, used to be able to give mana to herself as well, which is really strong. You want to build the Rylai second, which allows you to slow the entire enemy team down every time you cast your Q, which is really, really strong. It gives you a good amount of AP and tankiness as well. And the tankiness allows you to survive longer in team fights, which is the whole point of playing Soraka and of this team comp, is just to out-survive your opponents in fights. And then you want to build something like a Rabadon's, just to make your heals do much more healing and your Q to deal a lot more damage. Or you can build into something like a Locket to make yourself and your team more tanky and survive longer. That depends on what team comp you're facing against and if you need more damage in your comp, or, you know, we've got enough damage right now with our Shyvana and Vayne being 2 really strong late game carries, and the Vayne being really far ahead, currently 3-0, so, oh, I forgot to switch around the things, sorry about this guys. I'll just quickly do that as the Thresh lands a nice hit onto the Karma. We get a bit of damage on her, but it forces back up because the tower aggro is given to the Vayne, unfortunately, so there we go, that's all swapped up around now. So as you can see, I'm behind on CS to the TF, our Vayne's behind on CS. We're all pretty much behind on CS to our counterparts, but we're ahead on gold, and that's because we did better team fighting, better rotating for towers in the early game. So we're quite even right now, but we have a stronger team fighting composition, so we can just continue to farm and get experience. Unfortunately, somehow their Karma is actually a level behind our Thresh. Level 4 to our Thresh is level 5. Gonna speed this up because it's just laning, it's kind of boring. Constantly pushing out the wave and getting it pushed back. So yeah, this comp's gonna look to fight a lot. And this champion is very good for a team fighting composition, as she can be picked pretty much anywhere, to be honest. She has a really good matchup against a lot of the mid laners in the meta right now because she can just sustain through, like, it's like a Nidalee, but she's just better in a team fight. Nidalee is really strong in lane because she can just sustain and throw out spears until the opponent has to leave lane. Okay, so what happens in this fight here is they're trying to take our bottom lane tower. We call our Shyvana to go in, and then she starts getting focused by 4 people. So as you can see, her health's dropping really quickly. A lot of burst damage comes out, but the heals just start to come in, and her health goes from nothing back up to half health, and the Renekton's in tower range, and just all of the AoE comes out, and as you can see, a lot of damage eventually comes out onto the enemy team here, and they're forced away. Unfortunately for them, we have a Vayne, and Vayne's passive allows her to gain extra move speed, meaning you cannot run away from a Vayne. You can never get away from this champion, and she's just going to pick up more and more kills. The flash hook comes out, lands onto the Lucian. Very, very good play from us. We get a lot a lot more gold out of that fight, and our Vayne gets even stronger, ready for the late game. So we're going to shove up this wave, going to rotate towards the mid lane, because the wave's pushing up towards the tower. Unfortunately, we pushed these two towers down earlier, which is why we rotate mid to get a tower out of that fight. You always want to be looking for objectives after a team fight. So just going to try and land a hook here onto the TF, but unfortunately it doesn't connect. And we're just going to push down this tower, getting even more gold and more advantage onto the enemy team. As you can see, we're about 3k gold ahead right here. Probably going to swing back and forwards as the game goes on, because this isn't a flawless game for us. I am watching the shop there, and luckily get to recall before getting it stopped. That was a mistake from me. Dragon has spawned. What they should be doing right now, especially in the Dragon, is they know that I've recalled, but Xin Zhao went top to farm golems for some reason. And now both teams are in vicinity to fight for the Dragon. So, Vayne tries to catch out the Karma here, but Karma reacts very nicely with a speed buff on herself, getting her away. So we're looking to fight this Dragon here. We start to aggro the Dragon. We're looking for a fight. Unfortunately for us, our Shyvana ends up getting caught. The ult goes out on her, all the heals come out on her, but it's just not enough. She dives into 4 or 5 people, and the heals aren't enough to unfortunately keep her alive, because my ultimate was down, and we just didn't have all our cooldowns available, so we should have backed out a bit earlier though. This is going to give them the pressure onto the Dragon here, but after sustaining for a little bit with our heals, we look to just stop them from being able to do Dragon. We're still looking to fight. TF's flash onto the Vayne, stuns her up, they burst her down with a huge amount of damage. The box was pretty good, but unfortunately the Vayne just got locked up and we couldn't get her out alive. A lot of poke damage coming down onto their champions, however, so we're still thinking that we can force them away, because we know that if we back here, they're just going to get Dragon for free, and we know that we can sustain it enough to push them away. So all they really got out of that fight was 2 kills. They didn't get any objectives, they didn't get the Dragon, and we're still in the gold lead just because of that. So I know that they're all recalling, so I go and take out the pink warded Dragon. Looking for any more pink wards, don't find any. Go out to push the mid lane, and I'm going to look to base it, probably. Actually no, I've sustained up enough that I can stay for the next fight at Dragon, so get a bit of damage onto their support there. Heal up. The TF used flash last fight, so we use our coin and speed buff on Lulu to catch him out of position. He can't get away from the Vayne, and the hook connects just in case. So we get a free kill onto the TF there, which allows us to pressure the Dragon 4 versus 5. A little bit of damage coming out for their support there, but not enough to stop us from doing the Dragon. Now we know that TF used his flash last fight because he flash stunned our Vayne, that's how our Vayne died. And we looked to capitalise on his flash being down and get a kill on him and take the Dragon. Vale looking for a pick there onto their Karma, unfortunately doesn't get it. We're going to look to split up and start to farm the lanes out again. Now right now TF's ultimate's up, and our Vayne's at the bot lane pushing on her own, so it's kind of dangerous, but she's going to base after, I think after this wave anyway, but she's probably going to get rotated on here by the TF. Yeah, the 4 of them are looking to go down and fight the Vayne. She probably should have backed up on the wave prior. Little bit of greediness is going to get her killed by the 4-man squad that's coming for her. She knows, but it's just too late because the TF's going to port onto her and stun her. We're looking to try and pressure something, but unfortunately with them being 4 bot, we should try and get an objective. Unfortunately, the only objectives we could get would be this tower, which isn't pushed up enough, the Baron, which is way too risky because we haven't got enough damage with Soraka, Lulu, Shyvana and Thresh to take it down quick enough, and the top tower, which unfortunately the wave was back here. So we're going to look to try and push down this top tower because there are still 4 people bot. Vayne getting caught out of position loses us a bot lane tower, but it's not too much to be worried about because we still have the gold lead. And we're countering with pressure in the top lane, which forces Renekton to teleport up to the top tower to defend it. So we won't end up getting the top tower, but at least we end up getting this teleport out of that, which means we can make plays on the map elsewhere globally. So as you can see, I've caught up with TF on the CS because he's been forced to roam around a lot, and we've been picking him off and taking dragons and such. So he's been spent most of his time dead this game or away from lane, and trying to push down the mid lane, but Soraka's wave clear is just far too much for them to be able to do much. As you can see, we're looking to pressure here. Vayne gets a nice condemn onto Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao's completely caught out of position, and we get a nice amount of damage down to him. They get a nice bit onto our Vayne, but 3, 4, 5, God knows how many heals come out. The Lulu gets herself right into the middle of 2 people. Perfect knock up from her ultimate. Flash hook onto the blue buff just to secure it. And the Vayne chases down to the Karma. Kills there as well. And we get a free blue buff for that. We're probably going to look to pressure the mid tower here as Shyvana's pushing it up. Another nice catch from our Vayne sitting in this bush. Zin was completely unaware, walked past, gets condemned, gets hooked, gets just caught out of position and killed. And gets us another team fight off of that as well. Not only does Zin die, but our Lulu teleports in, manages to get a knock up on 2 people, and we get even more kills out of it. As you can see, the Vayne dropped incredibly low again that last fight, but our comp is built around sustaining right back up to full health and continuing the fight. A really nice hook onto the Renekton here, allows us to get a lot of damage out on him, kill the tower. Really nice return damage from their Karma, however, and the Xin Zhao forces us away. And we're going to have to disengage here. TF is going to pop his ultimate with the gold card activated and try and pick off either the Vayne or Shyvana. Unfortunately, he gets himself hooked and silenced at the same time and completely destroyed before he can do anything. Fires his Q above to his team, unfortunately. Lulu gets caught out of position. He made the call to go back in, but it looks like we weren't on the same page, which is not too bad. We end up picking up the Renekton. A nice hook lands onto the Lucian, stopping him do damage, but our Vayne gets caught, picked off. And this is quite a messy fight from both teams. I try and chase down the Xin Zhao as I didn't realise he had a Hex Drinker that just came off cooldown as I cast in view. My fault for getting too greedy trying to kill the Xin Zhao. I should have just waited a little bit. As you can see, my ult is now up. It was on cooldown as I died by about 2 seconds. So if I'd have just waited and sustained a bit longer, we could have probably kept the fight going, sustained through, and picked up more kills and maybe more objectives off of it. But a little bit of over-aggression there from me costs us a little bit. We're still 3k gold ahead. They're not going to be able to push down this tower because Lulu speeds herself up from base, gets a little bit of damage onto the Karma. Lulu gets a nice bit of return damage onto the Lucian. The Lucian gets a bit of return damage onto our Lulu. And everything goes back to a little bit calm and a little bit collected. So TF's going to push out the bot wave. We're going to ward up, and I'm not sure what our next objective is, but we're just going to look to push out the mid lane. Vayne's going to farm the bot lane out. TF's going to go and push out the mid. Right now everything's just a bit slow, so I'm going to speed it up. Got my Rylai's, which is a very cool item on Soraka. Everyone's going to be slowed on their team now, allowing us to kite and sustain through the fights. Everything that you build on this champion and the reason that you pick this champion is all for the same reason, just to kite and sustain through team fights. And our whole comp is built around team fighting. So to get team fights to happen, we want to contest objectives like this dragon. We're trying to make another fight happen here. I think unfortunately, oops, I might press the wrong button there. Trying to chat with nobody on the league client here. As you can see, we're quite far behind on CS, but because of all the objective and team fighting that we've been doing, we're ahead on gold. Unfortunate hook not landing there. Press the enter button again. Whoops. And we're just looking to try and fight this dragon. Trying to force team fights because that's where we feel our comp is the strongest. We don't want to get put into the position where they've got a TF split pushing, because I don't think we could deal with that as well. And the Renekton's ahead of most of our champions, so I don't think any of us can 1v1 the Renekton. But in a team fight we're stronger, so we go in, we get all of our heals, we get all of our ultimates and AoE off. We're gonna, I think Shyvana's going to get picked off here. The Renekton goes over the wall. We do end up picking off the Lucian here. Huge amount of damage coming through the Lulu there and the Vayne. We're going to pick off the Renekton. Condemned straight into the wall. Very nice play. And we're going to look to disengage here, as we all get relatively low there. Going to look to sustain. I take the Lantern back in because the hook lands. To silence the Karma, she has to flash out. Unfortunately, flashes in. Gets himself bursted down. A little bit of over-aggression there. Ends it in a 2-for-2. And we're not in the position where we can do the dragon because these two are still alive. Actually, I feel like we probably could have done the dragon there maybe and forced them to come back in and outplayed them, but a little bit of safety says for us to back off, collect this farm in the top lane that's pushed up to our tower, collect this farm mid that's about to hit the tower. Unfortunately, this is going to give up the dragon because they died first in the fight, which means that they are going to get to recall and get back to the dragon faster. But that's not too bad for us. As you can see, we still have the gold lead even after the dragon goes down. We just want to make one good team fight happen and we can go do Baron with this comp easily. So at the moment, everyone's quite even. The game's still quite even. We do have the slight advantage, however. Going to speed it up just a little bit. Going to pick up the blue buff for myself as I'm completely out of mana. and I want to base after this anyway, so what I should be doing here actually is basing first and then going to pick up the blue buff, because this allows me to get more time and usage out of the blue buff. Vayne catches out the Lucian in bot lane here. Unfortunately for Lucian, Vayne is the best 1v1 AD carry, and if you get caught out of position by Vayne, you're never going to be able to get away, because her passive gives her 30 movement speed when chasing the enemy champion, and while her ult is activated, that movement speed is tripled to 90, so you just can't get away from her if you're caught out of position, and you're not going to be able to out damage a Vayne either, especially a Vayne that is 12 and 3 right now. Very fed AD carry. Nice hook lands onto the TF, but not much is going to happen out of it except for the TF having to burn flash, which is good for us. Take note of that next team fight, see if it makes a huge difference. Right now, just going to push out the mid lane, going to group up. Looking to make a fight happen. Get some wards down in the enemy jungle. Going to rotate to top lane, out rotating the enemy team. The enemy team are all caught at their red buff trying to secure it. TF is out of position as well. We're 5 versus 2 right now as the wave hits the tower, which means that they have to give it up because they can't fight 5 versus 2 and their team is too far away. So we get a nice free tower there. Probably going to look to rotate back towards the mid lane. Going to clear some wards at Baron. Take a lantern away. And just continue to farm. Now, the reason we're not pressuring objectives too heavily here is because they don't really have many late game threats on their team. In fact, they have negative threats in the late game on their team. They have Karma doesn't scale well into the late game. Renekton doesn't scale well into the late game. Lucian, however, scales fantastically into late game, but nowhere near as well as Vayne does. Xin Zhao's going to scale because he's bought the Feral Flare. But the other 3 champions on their team don't scale incredibly well into the late game, whereas we have a Vayne and a Shyvana who are just going to continuously get stronger and stronger. And Soraka scales incredibly into the late game as well. Once she gets 6 items, she's almost unkillable with the amount of heals and tankiness that she gets through her build. So it doesn't really matter how long this game goes for us. We're going to be at the advantage all the way if we play the team fights correctly. So they're grouping up 5-man mid right now. They're going to look to push down this tower. I get right into the middle of them to start landing star calls. I want to take the focus here. I want people to start hitting me because, as you can see, I go down low. I get a huge amount of health back through the Lulu ult and my ultimate. And I'm just going to kite back. I'm just going to get people low because I know for a fact that our Vayne is coming from bot lane. And as soon as our Vayne gets here, this fight is completely over for the enemy team. Unfortunately, hook doesn't land on the TF. Otherwise, he would be dead for sure because he has no flash, as you remember. They're trying to run away now, but as we said before, once a Vayne gets into the fight, there is no escaping, because the Vayne is just going to chase you down. Vayne picks up 1 kill, unfortunately starts shooting at some minions here, but it's going to chase down the Karma eventually. Get a nice bit of damage onto her. Karma does not have her flash up, almost dies. The Shyvana goes in, ends up picking up the kill onto the Karma. Eventually, the Vayne has to flash to pick her up. But that's a 1 fight for us. That's a 2-for-0 exchange. Lucian going incredibly low. As you can see, this comp just survives. It just continues to not die. And if you don't die, eventually the enemy team is going to just fall flat on their face and get out damaged by you. So we end up taking the inhib. We know that 2 champions are still down on their team. They're going to face check here. A good call from Fight is to just pick off the Renekton for free here because he gets way too aggressive. They think we're going to go for Baron. And we just turn around and take out their tank. Now their tank's dead. Unfortunately, our Lulu almost falls here. My heal comes out just in time, and the Mikaels comes out just in time as well. And now that their tank is dead, there is not much that they can do back to us here. So we're going to retreat here after getting their inhibitor. That's really good for us because it allows us to pressure an objective called Baron right over here in the not so distant future. Karma's trying to get a catch here onto our Shyvana. Unfortunately, not going to happen. And our Lulu going to push out the top wave so we can start pressuring other objectives while the super minions automatically pressure the mid lane due to their inhibitor falling. So 2-1-14 this game. As you can see, I'm not a kill champion. I'm not going to be getting any kills on this champion. 14 assists is much more likely. She's a very support mid laner who does still provide damage, but not any sort of assassination potential like a Vayne would on the AD carry role. Vayne's going to like 2 or 3 shot somebody late game, whereas my Qs are going to whittle the enemy team down, reduce their magic resist, and just allow us to out sustain and fight them. As you can see, the Vayne is 15 and 3, has all of the kills on our team pretty much. And so yeah, a very supporty mid laner, but a very fun mid laner to play. Very strong at the moment as well, because she doesn't really have a losing lane phase. Even against LeBlanc, one of the strongest assassin mid laners right now, you just survive through her damage by healing yourself over and over and over again, like Nidalee. But you can provide a completely different set of skills and utility for late game team fights than Nidalee does. Nidalee's more of a poke champion, doesn't want a team fight ever. Soraka wants to get in your face and team fight all the time. So we know that they're going Dragon right now. We want to pressure them as hard as possible. We notice that they don't have a ward here. Unfortunately, they have one on Baron, but we're going to look to try and force them up to Baron and look to try and fight them, because we know right now that we are so strong in a team fight. And we know that there's nothing that they can do to outfight us right now. So we have a ward up here. We're calling for our Lulu to teleport to this ward and get in behind them. This is absolutely huge play from us. The Lulu speed buffs herself in, gets a massive slow onto the TF and Lucian. They're 2 carries. Vayne just flies in, the knock up on 2 people. Fantastic from the Lulu. And they just get completely outplayed positionally there. And they're going to fall. And this is going to be the game. 2 people down already. Their mid lane AP carry is gone. We're just going to look to tank these towers. Heal shields. Not much that the enemy team can do about this. They're going to look to try and fight, but it's just not going to be enough. The box helping to zone, forcing the enemy champions to defend the tower through here only. 2 towers down. Renekton goes in, has to make something happen, but unfortunately they can't, so they're just going to back off and accept that they've been defeated. Hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. Soraka's a very fun champion to play, and I recommend playing her in solo queue, because she's very strong in lane right now as well, and she fits this sort of team comp absolutely fantastically. So yeah, as usual guys, if you enjoy the commentary, leave a like, and if you want to see my videos as they get released, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, have a great day everyone. See you later.